Steph, what does just this mean to you to finally be a Finals MVP after everything?
Forget that. We champs. Why you starting with that question? We got 4 championships. This one hits different for sure. Just knowing what the last 3 years have meant, what it's been like, from injuries to changing of the guard and the rosters, Wigs coming through, our young guys.
This might be the most unlikely one of all, but I've just been blessed. I hang around superstars. If you hang around superstars, good things happen.
I want to start this video out in a way that a lot of you may have not expected, and that's pretty much by shouting out the Boston Celtics for their phenomenal season. Of course, nobody wants to lose in the NBA Finals, but making it to the NBA Finals is an accomplishment in itself. I quite literally don't know what I would do if my New Orleans Pelicans or Houston Rockets made the NBA Finals. The Boston Celtics had to overcome a lot to even be in the position that they were. Let's not forget that there were a lot of doubts this season that Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown could even play together. And admittedly, early in the season, I was one of those guys that was worried about what the Boston Celtics were going to look like. The Celtics stayed the course, fought through the downs, and took Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors to 6 games. It's no secret that this postseason, the Boston Celtics had some major injury scares. As a matter of fact, apparently Rob Williams played through an injury that was so bad that at one point he had to consistently get his knee drained. The only reason they stopped is because his knee kept filling back up. When a report dropped that Rob Williams playing through this injury wouldn't make his knee worse, IT of all people would quote this report and say, "Heard that before." I honestly feel really bad for IT because we all know what ended up happening with him. I'll never forget what IT brought to the Boston Celtics despite all odds, and I definitely know that Celtics fans won't either. The departure wasn't necessarily pretty, but IT still has a lot of love for Boston and his time in the city. Social media is really weird because you can get these elite tweets from Isaiah Thomas that rack up a ridiculous number of likes, but you can also find a ton of people hating on Jayson Tatum for no reason. If you criticize Tatum for reasons related to hoop, I get it, but to criticize him for just being chill and showing love or anything like that is low-key kind of crazy to me. What was also crazy to me was Tatum's play throughout the series. Tatum didn't have his best series. As a matter of fact, he played his worst series of these NBA playoffs against the Golden State Warriors. He only averaged 21.5 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists on 36% from the field. That only is completely relative because I know that Jayson Tatum is capable of so much more. According to StatMuse, Tatum became the first player with 100 turnovers in a single postseason. Now, I know there are going to be some people that get mad at me for saying this, but I'm not exactly mad at Tatum, well, because I'm not a Celtics fan, and also, the Celtics aren't there without him. The Celtics have been wildly successful, and Jayson Tatum has been a major part of that. Apparently, Tatum has played more minutes than anybody since July 2020. Logging 6,935. According to Sean Grande on Twitter, Jaylen Brown wasn't far behind. Minutes aside, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum have been asked to carry a very large offensive load for the Boston Celtics all season. While these are two players who are more than capable of doing so, they still need more help and the ability to make smarter decisions. Again, fatigue could definitely be a factor, but I don't think that it's the only factor. These two players are so talented, but they can also be very inconsistent at the same time. Ime said himself that one of the biggest needs for his team to improve on was the IQ section. I know this is going to sound harsh to a lot of people, but I think that Ime is just spitting facts. A few years ago, Steph said this very same thing for the Golden State Warriors. How did the Warriors respond? Well, they went into the offseason and they made the necessary changes. Everything about the Boston Celtics offense feels hard. This is a team that feels like it rarely gets easy buckets, especially for its star players. You guys know that I absolutely love Jayson Tatum's game, but like I tweeted the other day, it feels like 88% of the shots he takes are Hall of Fame difficulty. In Game 7, Brown had 34 on 12 of 23. He had 7 boards and 3 assists. Brown, Al, and Rob all had some really nice moments this series. Tatum, on the other hand, had his moments, but also did not play his best series. In Game 7, Tatum went 6 of 18 for 13 points. He had 7 assists and he recorded 3 rebounds and 5 turnovers. Tatum has everything you can want an offensive player to have in their bag. He puts the ball on the floor effectively. He can hit every shot in the book. He's shown incredible strides as a playmaker, and he has the length and athleticism to punish defenders at the basket. He's 6'8", 6'9". When he gets to the basket, he can be an absolute problem. Like Ime said, he doesn't have to foul hunt and look for calls, but he does need to be aggressive. And I don't want people to think that settling for a lot of jump shots equates aggression. Getting to your spot and missing good shots, that's one thing, but flat out settling, that's something that we see far too often out of this Boston Celtics team. Guys, how do we feel about the Celtics finding a way to add another dynamic playmaker, or maybe changing up their offensive system going into next season? Regardless, with the way that this season went for Boston, I fully believe in their ability to adjust and make the right additions. Smart has got a lot of criticism in the past for his playmaking, but I think he's also taken some good strides this season. Then speaking of additions, remind me how good Derek White was for them again? Now I'm doing all of this talking about what Tatum, Brown, and the Celtics could have did better, but the truth is that the Warriors also did a great job of limiting them. One of the biggest reasons that the Golden State Warriors traded D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins was the length and defensive potential that Wiggins provides. Don't get me wrong, the picks and everything were great too, but the Warriors made this trade with a vision that they wanted to get more length on the defensive side of the basketball. You guys know I'm a firm believer that 6'7", 6'9" versatile wings are among the most valuable players in the league. Now you can give or take an inch or two to that, but my point remains the same. I've been saying that these players are at a premium for a minute, and in this series we definitely got to see why. There are times where defense can only be as good as its weakest link, and for a lot of moments in this series, Steph Curry wasn't exactly this super weak defender that everybody painted him to be. Now, I know Steph struggled at times, but I'm talking about in this series, I saw a lot of promise from Steph on the defensive side of the basketball. Steph's offense is so good that if he's even slightly passable on defense, the Warriors aren't fair. It's that simple. According to StatMuse, with Steph on the floor, the Warriors had a 115.8 offensive rating in the finals. Without him, their offensive rating was 88.6. That's quite the drop-off, and not a surprise at all when you consider that Steph is not only one of the best shooters to play the game, but also one of the best guards, period. When it comes to guards, where are you guys ranking Steph? To get back to talking about defense, Wiggins' length and defensive capabilities were a nightmare for Tatum. I don't want you guys to think that Wiggins was only this monstrous defender in the playoffs either. This season, he proved his value time and time again. Contrary to popular belief, there were basketball reasons that contributed to Andrew Wiggins being named to the All-Star team, even if he wasn't necessarily the best player. Earlier this season, Steve Kerr said that the Warriors would be dead on defense without Andrew Wiggins when they faced off against Luka Doncic. He also cited Wiggins as an amazing athlete and somebody that never seems to get tired, a trait that it seems a lot of great defenders have. When Wiggins was drafted to the Timberwolves in 2014, everybody's expectations of him made it hard to appreciate what he brought to the floor as a player, as did his contract and to an extent some of his play. This was somebody that drew comparisons to Vince Carter and Rudy Gay pre-draft. I remember watching the mixtapes, the mixes, the highlight tapes. I remember watching all of that. Everybody thought Wiggins was going to be tough, and he is tough just in his own way. While he's not necessarily Vince, some of the dunks that he's thrown down in this year's playoffs have left me speechless. Wiggins getting traded to Golden State was among the best case scenarios for his career, because while he's not a number one option on any contender, he's a beast of a third or fourth option that can even give you number one to number two production anytime that he's on the floor. Is anybody else getting Andre Iguodala vibes with Andrew Wiggins? That's a joke. But on a serious note, Iggy's career has been fun and a somewhat unexpected one to say the least to me. It's really wild how much of the NBA is situational. The right situation can show you a side of a player that you've never seen before. Wiggins went to a new situation, continued to evolve, and balled out. I say this because I don't want to undersell all of the work that he's put in. Wiggins could have let the criticism get to him. Instead, he used it as fire. Wiggins said that the doubt put fire in my eyes. I just wanted to prove everyone wrong. Now I'm a champion. Everyone's going to have something to say regardless, but they have to say I'm a world champion too. Steph really has 4 rings now. That's crazy. So does Draymond. So does Clay. And what's so ridiculous is that this team is still so incredibly young. Let me know what you guys think of everything down in the comments below. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm Getlikecoop, bringing you guys the scoop. Until our next upload.